Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for November the 26th of 2019. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams, and this is a daily gaming news show that brings you the hottest stories that you need to know 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, on YouTube and podcast services around the world. So if you enjoy the show, you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and get the show integrated into your daily routine as you're getting ready, as you're driving to work, as you are at work, whatever you may be doing. Go ahead and stay in the know every single weekday. Would have been cool to end that on another rhyme, but I didn't have one ready on the fly. However, today we are talking about a 9 to 5 Google story that says Google is exaggerating the quality of Stadia's games and it's not okay. And since then, Google has sent out a statement saying why some of their games don't look as good as compared to the competition. And believe it or not, they're passing the buck. Then Valve has removed almost 1,000 games from Steam because some publishers were abusing Steamworks. The PS5 may use Samsung SSDs. Final Fantasy VII's Remake Part 2 is already in development. Battleborn is shutting down, much to the chagrin of the 10 people in the world still playing it. And finally, Nintendo has their own merch store just in time for the holidays. And guess what? It's on Amazon, so you get some really good shipping speeds, and it's overwhelmingly accessible. That's the big draw of having any kind of merch store on Amazon. Everybody uses it, at least most people. But with that being said, that is our lineup for today's show, and I hope you enjoy. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. So Google is exaggerating the quality of Stadia's games, and it's not okay. Google Stadia is an ambitious project that unfortunately is off to a rough start thanks to lofty expectations, head-scratching decisions, and annoying hiccups. However, looking past most of that, the biggest problem that Stadia currently faces is that Google has been heavily exaggerating the quality of 4K games on the service. And so we will dive into the update in just a moment, but with reviews and now more users starting to jump on Stadia, it's become apparent quickly that the visual quality of games is not up to par with other services. This could be partially to blame for the streaming nature of games, but it's been proven already that this simply is not the case. In its review, The Verge spoke to Bungie, the developers behind D2, and confirmed that Stadia's version of the game is not the same 4K version as on other platforms. Rather, D2 on Stadia renders at 1080p and is upscaled to improve the quality. In other words, the game currently never plays in 4K on Stadia. The problem extends to other games too. Red Dead Redemption 2, another big name for the platform, also doesn't play in true 4K. Eurogamer confirmed that the game only renders at 1440p and is then upscaled to 4K on Chromecast Ultra. The quality difference is also very obvious when you look at the game side by side with its 4K version on the Xbox One X, as shown off on this individual Pixelbuster's Twitter account. And I do believe I need not even mention the fact that the game looks horrible on Stadia as compared to on the Xbox One X. So with that being said, back to the story. In the case of Red Dead Redemption 2, some of the blame is very likely on Rockstar itself, since the PC version of the game, which Stadia's copy is based on, has had many issues. However, it's just another example of where Google is blatantly lying about the 4K quality of games on Stadia. Google's Phil Harrison explicitly said that all games will be running at 4K 60 FPS, but D2 and Red Dead Redemption 2 simply don't. Rather, they're upscaled to meet that. Worse yet, there was a tweet that seemingly confirmed Red Dead Redemption 2 would run at 4K, but that tweet was swiftly deleted. Presumably, Google was quick to prevent what would have been a blatant lie from being on its own account, knowing that the game was at a lower resolution. Since the first reveal of Stadia, Google has bragged about the powerful hardware running the service and how it can handle 4K at 60 FPS without breaking a sweat, even leveraging multiple instances to better improve the quality. So far, though, we have yet to see Stadia actually pulling that off. If the company had said that some games ran at lower resolutions and relied on upscaling, or even pushed the underlying hardware power less, this would be less of a problem. The same would apply if the settings these games run at on Google's end were disclosed more obviously. Google clearly has the power to fix this, and I genuinely hope they do, and it seems they have released a statement that says it's not really their problem. They say, on an update on November the 24th, Google has since responded to this situation with further details about the quality of games on Stadia. A Google spokesperson tells us that Stadia streams at 4K 60 FPS, with developers working behind the scenes to deliver the best streaming experience to every game. Stadia, like other platforms, employs upscaling and other methods to achieve the best overall quality, and Google expects that Stadia games will be upgraded over time, pointing to the convenient lack of updates for the end user when those upgrades are available. And so the direct statement is as follows, and I quote, Stadia streams at 4K and 60 FPS, and that includes all aspects of our graphics pipeline from game to screen. GPU, encoder, and Chromecast Ultra all outputting to 4K to 4K TVs with the appropriate internet connection. Developers making Stadia games work hard to deliver the best streaming experience for every game. Like you see on all platforms, this includes a variety of techniques to achieve the best overall quality. We give developers the freedom of how to achieve the best image quality and frame rate on Stadia, and we are impressed with what they have been able to achieve for day one. We expect that many developers can, and in most cases will, continue to improve their games on Stadia. And because Stadia lives in our data centers, developers are able to innovate quickly while delivering even better experiences directly to you without the need for game patches or downloads. And that is where the story ends as of right now. So essentially, Google is saying, hey, it's not us, it's the developers. And a lot of people have come to the defense of the developers and saying Google should have a platform that is more ready for the headline, more ready for the limelight before releasing it. And I think, quite frankly, there is blame to go around here. It's not just on Google. Now, of course, Google has been taking a lot of abuse over the course of the past week or so, since Stadia users have been reporting issues, as we discussed on yesterday's show. Some are saying the Chromecast is getting very, very hot to the point that some people have to restart it in order to play. It's becoming a bit of a problem. And so now we have this where some games just simply don't look as good as compared to on the Xbox One X and on the PS4 Pro, and especially on PC. Now, as Google says, I do believe that once developers figure out how to best utilize the power Stadia has available, then things are going to be changing and games will likely look better. But at the same time, I do want to say, this is still very incredible that it's even possible. And of course, I've been giving Google a lot of flack as well, but at the same time, you have to consider that you are playing a beautiful game in a Chrome browser. You are playing a beautiful game on something that is meant for Netflix if you're playing on Chromecast Ultra. You are playing big AAA experiences over the internet. It's something that's very incredible. Now, with that being taken into consideration right out of the gate, it is not shocking that this is not on par with the Xbox One X or the PS4 Pro. It's still impressive that it works at all for me. Now, with that being said, my expectations are different than the rest of the expectations that many people in the world do tend to have. And that is, quite frankly, if it's not up to par with what they already have with an Xbox One X or a PS4 Pro or a PC, then why is this even on the market? Ultimately, it's going to get very interesting in the next few months as Project xCloud finally comes into the public preview. And on top of that, more competitors begin to emerge in the form of course, PlayStation Now, which is older than both of these services. And on top of that, who knows who else could come into the fold. But with that being said, Google is saying it's not their problem. Everything's good on their end. And as they continue to improve their service, developers should continue to improve the way they port and develop games for Google Stadia. However, Valve has their own problem. Valve removed 1,000 games from Steam because publishers were abusing Steamworks. A very interesting story that I woke up to this morning. Something strange appears to be happening on Steam, where, as chronicled by Steam Tools, roughly 1,000 games have been suddenly removed from the system. Some of the banned games look a little sketchy, but others seem like fairly normal games, for Steam at least, and have been on the platform for many months or years. Glass Winged Ascension, for instance, has been on Steam since mid-2017 and is still listed on IndieDB, while Mindtrap has been around for about the same length of time. Electric Highways had more than 1,300 very positive user reviews before it was removed. We also included it in a 2018 Free Games of the Week roundup, they say at PC Gamer. And Masha Recruits Grandma. My bad, Masha Rescues Grandma, a casual puzzle adventure released in 2016 and removed a couple of hours ago, actually has a walkthrough video on YouTube with nearly 49,000 views. Not sure why that's an interesting metric, but okay. None of the removed games are mainstream by any means, and there's a lot of garbage to sift through, but that's Steam in a nutshell. And given its anything-goes approach to new releases, there is nothing in the list that leaps out as being especially out of line. By my count, the author says 982 games have been removed from the service over the past 4 hours. It's very odd, and we're not sure why it's happening, but we now know a bit more. Due to an update. Shortly after our story went up, developer Alexandra Frock noted on Twitter that a good chunk of the removed games were linked to a single Russian publisher, Dagestan Technology, that appeared to be operating under a large number of different names. Selecting related apps for individual listings of banned games reveals how they're connected. Sly Pigs, for instance, is 5 steps removed from Running Sausage, but only 2 from Battlestar Maze. Okay, it's a bit like a Steam version of 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Some of the connections in the related games list aren't immediately obvious, but the steps do lead from one point to the next, and Frock appears to be onto something. A cached version of the Dagestan Technology Steam Curator page lists 48 games and 4 DLCs, but the live page is now empty. Valve did not reveal any specifics on involved companies or their transgressions, but it did indirectly confirm that Dagestan was not the only publisher involved, saying that the removals were the result of bad behavior on the part of multiple publishers. We recently discovered a handful of partners that were abusing some Steamworks tools, a rep explained. We emailed all the affected partners. And that is where the story ends right now. So it looks like somebody was not playing by Valve's rules when it comes to how they put their games out on Steam. Looks like maybe there could be some under-the-table dealings. Who knows what this could be? But I will say, if you were looking for some trash games to play, 1,000 of them have been removed from Steam, gone like Thanos' snap. Just boom, there they are. Not there. Anyways, yes, I did want to let you know that was going on. And of course, stay tuned because I feel like this could be a developing story that we might talk about on tomorrow's version of the show. Now, with that being said, you aren't going to be playing those games on any kind of PC or console, but you could be playing PlayStation 5 games on a Samsung SSD. The PlayStation 5 is expected to hit next year, but it's meant to be faster than ever. Sony's next console could use Samsung SSDs to load games faster, according to Samsung during a presentation in Tokyo today, as reported by Nico Partners senior analyst Daniel Ahmad. The tech company revealed it is currently working on an NVMe SSD, that's non-volatile memory express, which will be used on an upcoming game console next year. While Samsung does not explicitly name the PlayStation 5, an accompanying slide features a picture of a PlayStation DualShock controller. Samsung claimed the new SSD will introduce a new era in game consoles, with reduced load times when loading games or booting up your system. It is estimated that a standard hard drive takes just under 50 seconds for a system boot, an SSD takes around 29 seconds, while an optimized NVMe will take a lot less. However, exactly long is not just clear yet. As was previously confirmed, PlayStation 5 is set to sport a custom AMD GPU with support for ray tracing and 8K resolution, although it will continue compatibility with the PSVR headset. Sony already stated its new console will greatly reduce loading times in games, but it was not confirmed as to what technology was in place to do that. The company showed how quickly the PS5 can load PS4 games earlier this year, with a PS5 gameplay reveal booting Marvel's Spider-Man in just 0.8 seconds. Very impressive, to say the least. And so this is a very, very good move because Samsung is one of the leaders when it comes to SSD storage. It really is something that I have used in the past. It's something that I see as an industry leader. And to develop something specifically for the PlayStation 5 sounds like it's going to create an experience that is very, very fast, very, very agile, very responsive. And I will say, I think this is what's going to separate the PlayStation 5 from other consoles if other consoles don't have this integrated into their systems. Because right now, for instance, with my PS4 Pro, I can undo the top of it, or I can open up the system itself and put in whatever kind of hard drive I really want, as long as it fits into the slot. On top of that, you also have external storage, but not all of this moves at the same rate, so some games may load slower depending on what hard drive you have in there. In fact, some people put SSDs in their PS4s and PlayStation 4 Pros just to be able to speed it up a bit. Now, with all of that being said, if you do have this proprietary memory, that could be a big, big price jump as compared to being able to just plug in a USB drive or an external hard drive and go with the flow. So definitely expecting to be a bit pricey when it comes to how you pay for memory here if you are expanding the storage that is not built into the PS4 itself, the PS5 itself. But very excited to see just how fast Samsung can get the experience on the PS5. But I wouldn't be shocked if we had to pay a pretty penny to see just how good it is. However, one game you could be loading onto a hard drive on your PS5 is Final Fantasy VII's Remake Part 2, and it's already started development. Alongside releasing over 20 new images from Final Fantasy VII's Remake earlier today, Square Enix also revealed some new info on the upcoming future installments in the Remake saga. In a new blog post on Square Enix's website, director Tetsuya Nomura confirmed that the studio has already started development on the second game in the Final Fantasy VII Remake series. We've already begun working on the next one as well, but I'm confident that playing through this title will expand your expectations just like the world that extends beyond Midgar, Nomura wrote in the post. Nomura also stated that even though his first part of Final Fantasy VII Remake focuses on Midgar, its size is much larger than many would anticipate. That's what she said. Even in this Midgar portion alone, the density and volume are so great that I had to give directions to lighten them, the director said. He also added that there will be new bosses in Remake that weren't found in the original game. While it's not too shocking to hear that Square has already started working on the eventual second game in the long-awaited series, the larger question still remains of how many parts the team has planned. As of now, Square Enix has not publicly said how many parts there will be, mainly because they don't even know yet themselves. The publisher said earlier this year that it's still trying to figure out how much content would go into Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, at which point it might become more apparent how many parts in total there will be. For now, the first part of the remake is slated to arrive next year on March 3rd of 2020 and will be released exclusively for the PS4. Of course, future installments will then almost assuredly be releasing on next-gen platforms down the road. And so, I'm not a big Final Fantasy guy. I'm not a big Final Fantasy VII guy. I know a ton of people are, but I did want to let you know that it looks like the second version of the game, the second entry in the franchise that has spawned because of one specific game released in the PS1 era, is now in development. So congratulations to those fans and congratulations to the studio. But if you did want to dive into Part 1, that one's coming out on March 3rd of 2020. However, you know what you can't dive into starting in 2021? Battleborn is shutting down. The game has been removed from digital stores. Or at least I think it is. We'll talk about that right now. 2K Games is sunsetting Gearbox Software's online multiplayer game, Battleborn, which will go offline and become unplayable in January 2021. The publisher announced the game's end in a series of tweets and an official support notice on 2K Games' website. The sunsetting process has already begun. 2K has removed Battleborn from digital storefronts, and the game is no longer available to download from the PS Store and Steam, as well as the Xbox Game Store. 2K is ending virtual currency sales, Platinum in Battleborn, as of February 24th of 2020. The game's servers will remain active, and the game will continue to be playable until January 2021, according to 2K. But after that, Battleborn will no longer be playable, including the game's single-player campaign. The publisher says it's ending support for Battleborn to focus its efforts and resources on other projects. Battleborn launched on PS4, Windows PC, and Xbox One in May 2016 to a mixed review. The hero shooter was praised for its ambition, but critics knocked Gearbox's game for being grind-heavy and overly complicated. Battleborn also had the bad luck to launch just prior to the much more successful Overwatch, to which it was frequently compared. Battleborn went free-to-play in June 2017, and Gearbox released the game's final content update the following September. Of course, we do have the end of an era. What era that is, I'm not really sure, but I did want to mention here that Battleborn got a really, really bad rap because I believe, if I remember correctly, that it released the week before Overwatch, and so it hit, or I think it was back-to-back with Overwatch. It was either right after or right before. But whenever this game launched, it looked like Overwatch. It did not play like Overwatch, but everybody just connected the two because of the aesthetic of the game itself. I mean, look, it does look like something that would be in Overwatch. Like, this is like the anti-cast of anti-heroes here that would be going against. I mean, this looks directly like the entire slew of characters from Overwatch. And so, with that being said, you know, if you did want to dive into Battleborn, I don't know why you would, but if you did want to dive into Battleborn, then you need to get in, or at least you should have gotten in, before they took the game off of the digital storefront. Of course, you can still download it if you bought it and play it until the server shut down, but if you wanted to buy any in-game currency, that's ending February 24th, and of course, the game is going offline January 2021, so you have one more year to play with the rest of the 8 people that are playing Battleborn around the world. And finally, Nintendo has launched its official merchandise store on Amazon. Sometimes you just can't not buy merchandise related to your favorite video games. Nintendo has launched a new online merch store on Amazon so that fans can grab a Bowser mask and dance around a ring of Luigi RC cars. The new merchandise store seems to have arrived perfectly in line with Christmas, a time where people will be rummaging through websites and catalogs in panic. But now you can expect family members to sit thinking, I've seen that plump plumber with a red hat on their video game system. Christmas is sorted. Before you know it, you could end up opening your present to find yourself dressing up as Mario himself with a Yoshi crotch, unless of course you purchase it yourself. The type of items available to purchase range from toys, clothes, memorabilia, and gadgets. There's also a good deal of cylindrical containers used for storing liquids and beverages within, some with handles for the hot ones. The homepage for the official Nintendo merch store shows specific panels for those looking for their favorite video game related items such as Super Mario, Star Fox, The Legend of Zelda, Animal Crossing, and more. There is also a section dedicated to retro Nintendo with SNES clothing, Game Boy cups, and video game themed coasters. As a Zelda fan, the author says they really like the look of the Sheikah Slate Light. Excuse me, Sheikah Slate, I believe that's how that's pronounced, from Breath of the Wild. But the store also has a panel that links over to other video games and consoles, so if you are not looking to get a bunch of Nintendo-themed stickers, you can grab some video games instead. The mini-site offers similar panels leading to titles in a series such as Pokemon and even digital codes for indie games. But if you did want to get some Nintendo merch, then by all means you can dive into the official Nintendo store, available now on Amazon.com. And I must say, I'm glad to see this being the case because, quite frankly, any kind of merch store or external store always tends to be a hassle. With Amazon, you get very, very fast shipping. On top of that, Nintendo is such a worldwide entity that to be able to have access to it willy-nilly like that on Amazon is definitely an asset for parents and, of course, for fans of Nintendo around the world. But with that being said, that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed this one, be sure to drop me a like down below if you are watching on YouTube. And on top of that, be sure to head over and check out the show on podcast services and subscribe where you need to. But until tomorrow, have a phenomenal rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.